Today, I have no greeting for you. Greetings are for happy stories, but this is not that. You think a story about travel to a new country, where the people who went had a good time, would be a happy story. And to that I say, don't underestimate me like that. Anything can be a tragedy if you believe that it is. This is a story of crime, semi-true crime. You may ask what that means, and I'll tell you. The truth is relative and often more boring than what I can turn it into. The first victim was a young woman with dark boho braids, about 5'3". The second, a tall man who wasn't paying any attention. And the third was a tall man, 6'2", or so he tells people. The perpetrator was this deer. August 2025. Madison went to Japan with her husband Ben and their friend, who will remain unnamed unless later he decides that he wants his name known. In fact, it was all of their first time in Asia, and none of them spoke fluent Japanese. But that wouldn't stop these poor, naive travelers. They would figure out the way as they went. Or they wouldn't. Who really cares? After the 15-hour flight and the 2-hour train ride, they finally made it to Kyoto, where they got conned by an old lady in the middle of the night. The old lady said that their Airbnb was 2 streets away. It was not. It was on the street that they were on already. They could have been in some stranger's bed, desperately hoping that they cleaned it. But instead, the 3 of them were in the dangerous, dark streets of Kyoto. The streets riddled with little old ladies out for their midnight strolls, and young people bike riding home. Dangerously clean. Very different from the safety they were used to back home, where someone stole the lawnmower out of their backyard. How this someone avoided the cameras? We will never know. But the joke's on them. The lawnmower was broke. They finally found their Airbnb just in time to be exhausted. These were the events that led to the tragedy. The group didn't have an itinerary. They don't believe in that. Just a bunch of loose ideas that someone wrote on a random scrap paper they definitely didn't forget to bring. They walked a mall one day as they were acclimating to the time and the tiredness that riddled their body like a disease. The 3 of them got sushi that was cheaper than American's McDonald's Happy Meal. What a terrible place to be in. Such reasonable prices had to be a scam. The clothes were on a discount, and the store clerk even gave them extra discounts for no reason. So Madison brought a skirt. It was a dark brown skirt with little ties on the side. She had noticed a lot of women in skirts and started to feel left out, despite not usually liking to wear skirts. The heat of Japan in August may have also informed this decision, because why in the world was it so hot? These events are important, especially because she decided the next day for their new adventure she was going to wear that exact skirt, along with a white button-down and her tennis shoes, and a scarf wrapped around her bag. Ben had devised a plan for that day, for the group to explore. He had been Googling again, and may have saved the whole trip if it wasn't for the tragedy that was to occur. They were to hop on a train and go all the way to Nara Park to see the Sica deer. They had heard that these deer were loose and wild, and you could pet them. They also apparently bowed for food. At first, Madison wasn't sure how she felt about the idea, since she sees plenty of deer back home. They always running in front of people's cars and trying to take them out. They seriously have no chill. But maybe for once it would be nice to see them being peaceful. If only she knew. They got there, and there was an old lady selling crackers. People of all kinds bonded together to feed the deer and pet them. It seemed harmless enough. So her husband and his friend went up to the lady and got some crackers. Immediately, you could see the deer heads perk up with new victims in sight. You see, at first glance it looked like everyone was peacefully feeding the deer, but in reality, there was fear in their eyes, as if the deer were taking them hostage. The deer swarmed Ben, and he started throwing out handfuls of crackers that he had. But it wasn't enough. He had to give them his wallet, too. He was mugged by deer. A 3-foot-tall Sica deer with antlers sized up their friend and threatened him with its antlers until he, too, gave up his food and wallet and sat on the grass crying. Poor, innocent Madison didn't have any crackers. And yet, there was still a sneak attack. She felt something lurking behind her, something sinister. But she heard her husband shriek as he was being mugged, and this pulled her attention. Suddenly, there was a dull feeling. The deer had bit her. The tie on the one side of her skirt started to unravel. Thank goodness the tie had nothing to do with the structural endurance of the skirt. It just made it a bit loose and not as fashionable. Her scarf that she had tied to her bag was wet with deer saliva. She had been assaulted by a deer. And then they all died. I wish I could tell you that they learned not to get crackers, that they walked among the deer and learned that if you bowed to the deer, they bowed back. I wish that I could tell you that they made friends with them and that they went off to see a garden and an old house of a photographer, that the rest of their trip went wonderfully. But if I told you that, then it wouldn't be a tragedy, and it would ruin the whole tone of the story. So we're gonna ignore the facts of the matter. This painting will remain as an ethereal reminder to never trust deer. Enjoy the rest of the video as our story is over.